program is brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
Our entire country is debating the recent tax hikes, amendments, introduction of certain levies and what they mean to the everyday Botswana. Batswana have been in an uproar on various social media platforms, with some agreeing with these new developments while many do not see why these changes had to be implemented, especially now when the economy is in shambles due to the coronavirus. Let us now backtrack to how we got to this point. The former Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Dr. Thapelo Matseka, announced in his budget speech delivery that government will on April 1, 2021 introduce tax reforms, amongst them increase on withholding tax, tax amnesty and increase on value-added tax. It was also highlighted that there will be an introduction of a sugar levy, levy on fuel, a levy on imported vehicles and the plastic levy. This is an effort to beef up government coffers, geared at, amongst others, funding national development plans. Tasked with the mandate to make collections on these is the Botswana Unified Revenue Service, or BURS for short. These latest developments are reminiscent of a time when value-added tax, or VAT for short, was increased 10 years ago from 10% to 12% in the same efforts. While these efforts have been communicated as the reason for these increases and introductions by government and other relevant media commentators, it still remains unclear how these will be collected, by whom, under what structures. This particular segment of First Issues opens up our series on tax with the Botswana Unified Revenue Service, where we will unpack various topical issues with the Acting Commissioner General of BURS, Segolo Lekau. To lay a foundation for this conversation, the Acting Commissioner General will first reflect on the changes in the last decade, from the 10% increase to anticipated expectations with this new increment. Please give us a brief reflection of the accomplishments and challenges of when VAT was 10% to when it was increased to 12%. And you could close off that reflection with what your expectations are now that VAT has been increased to 14%.
We started our VAT in 2002 at 10%. And, over the years, I think somewhere in 2010 or 2011, we moved to a rate of 10%, of 12% rather. And now we are here in 2021. The minister did announce at the budget speech of 1st of February 2021 that we are going to move our VAT rate to 14%. I think this is all premised on the fact that government is looking for more funding from the domestic sources. And VAT, as you know, is one such tax that we derive from the consumption of goods and services in the country. What I can only say is that, look, we have had a growth in our VAT. It is not a very steep growth, but it has grown. If I take the last 5 years, we were at about 5 point something billion. Now we are, at, in terms of the target, we should be making about 8 billion. So it has been a steady growth. And that is basically what government is expecting, that with the additional 2%, we should, harvest more revenue from VAT, because that is basically from the domestic economy. There are challenges, however. The compliance in terms of the VAT in our environment has not been the best. We continue to fall short of the target as set by the Ministry of Finance, and we can attribute that to our environment that is not compliant.
I hear you talking about a target, but I want us to talk about how much tax collection base is in Botswana in terms of Pula, and how much of that is BURS collecting or has collected in the last 5 years?
Ghana, the target, as I'm saying, is set by the ministry. So what it basically means is that that is what government expects BURS to collect, at the end of the day, or for that particular financial year. And I would say that, there are 1 or 2 instances where we met the target for VAT, but in most cases, we have been able to collect almost up to, around about 92-95% to the target.
In Africa, help is what we do. That is why we at FNB are relentlessly driven to provide real help to you, the passionate and courageous, the creators and the optimists. These are the entrepreneurs we support, the communities we uplift. It is because of you that real help is what we do. FNB, how can we help you?
In addition to the increment of VAT, there's also been some levies that have been introduced. While there have been conversations around these levies and what they are, it has not been made clear how, the structure of collection is going to be, how these collections are going to be implemented, and by whom. Do you care to perhaps share the details to these?
The levies that were mentioned, I would say it was the plastic levy, which basically hinges on the issue of the environment, that we should really keep our environment in a pristine condition by ensuring that, we use less plastic. And therefore, if you are going to be, using plastic for purposes of, wrapping the goods or as carrier bags, government is basically saying that, okay, use it wisely, and for that there is a levy. So that is what we are going to be collecting. And it is clear that this levy will be collected at the manufacturing stage as well as the import, at the import stage. So that is how we are going to be collecting this levy. The fuel levy will be collected on the importation of fuel. So there's going to be a 1 Pula additional levy. We have currently been collecting, the fuel levy has been at 7.5 for diesel, and I think 12 tebe for petrol. Now that is going to rise by 1 Pula. This is purely a fiscal matter, just to raise revenue so that Batswana government can have, money to carry on, the aspirations of the economy. The other levy is the sugar, the one that is going to come as a result of, the way the health people are actually saying, look, we are consuming a lot of sugar. So maybe when we have, a levy on, soft drinks, that are sugar, based, that might, make us maybe want to drink more water, which is more healthier. But that levy will also be put at the manufacturer stage. We have worked with KBL, for instance, in their production to say to them, this is how the levy is going to affect your pricing, and they have accepted that, and I think they have already incorporated that. At the import level, when the drinks come or the juicy, You know, in our systems, we are going to be calculating that and collecting it and then sending it accordingly to, you know, the consolidated fund. There's one also, the one near the vehicle, the second hand, is also going to be imposed by us at import based on the, you know, the price that you'll be paying for your vehicle. So, and that is in addition to VAT and, you know, other taxes that otherwise we levy on the vehicles, like the customs duty.
I want us now to talk a little bit more in detail about some of these levies. We'll start with the plastic levy. In the past, we were introduced to a plastic levy, and to date, we still don't know how much was collected and how much was remitted to government. If you're privy to that information, you could perhaps tell us how the previous levy, how much the previous levy collected, how much was remitted to government, and how this new plastic levy that is soon to be introduced going to be different from the previous.
I can only talk with respect to what BURS has been mandated to do. And we can only do collection if they are enabling statutory instruments, that is basically government you know, enabling instruments, you know, published in the Gazette saying, you look, BURS, you must collect, you know, plastic levy at this rate, you know. Unfortunately, I wouldn't want to go into that history because really we are not part of that history. What we only know is that, yes, there was an issue about, you know, environment, that the plastics are actually, you know, having a negative impact on our environment. And therefore, one of the, you know, mitigating factors was to try and introduce, you know, a plastic levy. So, I mean, but that was really never mandated to us. And therefore, I'm afraid I can't really talk to it. But with what the minister said, it was very clear that, yes, BURS, once, you know, there has been agreement, you will certainly now take over and collect the plastic levy. And we stand ready to do so.
Now I want us to talk about the sugar levy. And I'll start with an example. When one has traveled to a foreign land, say South Africa, Namibia, or wherever, and they've bought food items or clothing, they can claim back the VAT that they spent in the other country because we also charge VAT here. So in the instance where other countries also impose sugar levies, does it mean that I can claim back the sugar levy lest I'm charged twice of the same?
Sugar levy, unlike VAT, is actually a component of the price. Yeah, so, and that is why I was saying to you that, you know, the way it's going to be collected will be at the manufacturer stage. However, if you know, for VAT, we know that, you know, it is actually pushed into, it is there in your invoice. And therefore, you are able to say, look, I've paid VAT of so much. And therefore, when you cross, because your consumption is going to be in Botswana, then we can be able to calculate and say, well, South Africa should refund you this much of VAT. Or if you are in Botswana and you are going out, we can actually refund you to that level. But with sugar levy, it is going to be very difficult because it is embedded in the price. Yes. So sometimes with levies of this nature, if you do it from a manufacturing perspective, it is possible to, you know, be able to avoid it. But in most cases, it won't be, because by the time the goods reach the retail, the price of the levy is embedded. Yeah, so that's where there are some difficulties, unless if the exports are happening between, you know, the manufacturers.
One of the new amendments made, Relegao, is on progressive tax, where now income tax is going to be paid by individuals who earn more than 48,000 per annum. Why was this moved from 36,000?
let me say that, look, the 36,000 was, that is the basket of goods that we are saying, we are saying Botswana at least, should be able to get 36,000 for consumption of goods and services where tax has been waived. That is the threshold. And what we are simply saying is that, look, that basket has been eroded by inflation over time, because that was set in 2012, and now we are in 2021 or 2020, and what it basically means is that there has been, inflationary pressures on that 36,000. So that is why government has decided to give Batswana a little bit more, but it's not more really, given that really we are talking, inflationary adjustment. And I can also say that it is not the full inflationary adjustment over this period, but it is a token that basically recognizes that prices of goods and services over time has moved.